Ed Gein, the butcher of Plainfield, the Plainfield ghoul, whatever you want to call him, he was a terrible monster. He'd sneak into cemeteries at night, dig up bodies of women he thought looked like his dead mother. When Ed went back to his house of horrors, he'd do things you'd only read in books or see in your nightmares. He'd make suits made from the skin of the bodies he dug up. He wouldn't only make suits, no, he got crafty. He'd use the skulls as food bowls and tableware, the extra skin as lampshades, chair covers, belts, wall art, and more. People who knew Ed thought of him as kind and gentle. He'd even babysit for some of the local children from time to time. In reality, he was a little strange, but more so confused. You see, Ed was always confused about his sexuality growing up, but he could never admit it because of the unaccepting times he lived in. He wanted to be female, and he did so by wearing the skin and the clothes as one. This was his way of expressing his true self. The story is deeper though. The death of his mother, Augusta, had pushed him over the edge of insanity. She was his whole world, but she was also the one who created the monster within him. Growing up, Augusta punished Ed severely for trying to make friends, and told him he'd burn in hell if he ever had sex. She made sure Ed was hers, and hers only. Something that sends shivers down my spine is the fact that Ed wouldn't just walk around the house in his skin suits. When nighttime came, he'd run outside to his farmland. And he'd skip and he'd dance in the moonlight. It's almost poetic, really. He was never able to go out and have fun with others, but now he could have a ball with himself and all the women that he wore, whenever he desired. No judgment, nobody to tell him what to do. He is his own man now. But remember, Ed didn't just dig up bodies. He was also a killer. Some say he wanted a change from digging up bodies to claiming his own. So in 1954, he killed tavern owner Mary Hogan in cold blood. Then in 1957, he killed hardware store owner Bernice Warden. Luckily, Ed didn't cover his tracks for this one, and he was caught soon later. We'll never know for sure, but it's also been said that Ed dabbled in cannibalism, and since Mary and Bernice were, quote, fresh meat, Ed would hang up their bodies like deer carcasses, cut them up, and have his own version of fine dining. Finally, if you don't know this already, Ed Gein's story inspired movies such as Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. Ed's story will never be forgotten, and the small town of Plainfield, Wisconsin will forever be cursed by the name Ed Gein.